What's up, everyone? So, first off, disclaimer: we did not plan this.
No, we didn't.
Can you imagine? We were just so heavily in sync. Anyway, for those of you who do not know, this is Jamila Anderson, my girlfriend. For those of you who don't watch Jam So Ask and Tell episodes, that's fine, but you should probably start now. And Jamila is an ISFP in the Myers-Briggs type indicator. That technically stands for introverted, sensing, feeling, perceiving, but that's only going by the dichotomies. And I'm always harping on the cognitive function. So, what we're going to be talking about today is sort of like an interview, and thankfully, this is going to be the first one of a whole series. I've already done the video with David, ENFJ versus INFJ, and Kylisa, ENFJ versus ENFP. But I'm actually planning on just making some solo videos of just interviewing one type. Like for this one, I'm not gonna be comparing my type with hers to contrast or anything. And I'm probably gonna do some INFJ ENFP videos over again. So we'll see about that. But this is the first one in the series, and we're gonna be interviewing Jamila as a jump off, and it works out great because Jamila, I would say, knows just as much about MBTI as I do, including really. I do all of the reading and the analysis and everything like that, and we're gonna get into this. But Jamila's one of those people who after I do all the reading and everything, I could show it to her, and then she just sort of picks up on it really quickly without doing all the extra stuff. Is there anything that you want to say?
No.
Fun fact: the ISFP's catchphrase per se is "see much, say little." Just keep that in mind with Jamila. So I want to jump this off by stating a few well-known ISFPs. You want to read them off, actually?
Sure.
Okay, get into that.
So some well-known ISFPs are Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, Tori Kelly, Aaliyah, R.I.P., Charlie Brown, Flounder from The Little Mermaid, Linguini from Ratatouille, Sierra, Nightcrawler from X-Men, Rihanna, Ashley Benson, Tamar Braxton's husband, Vincent Herbert, Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Luke Cage from the Netflix series, Grandmaster Flash, Bob Marley, Mulan, that's my girl, Harry Potter, Bob Ross, he was getting it with the strokes. Well, the paint strokes.
Another trademark for the type. I wouldn't know though.
The Beast from Beauty and the Beast. Toby from Pretty Little Liars, if y'all know who that is, or if y'all watch that show. And Tony from 13 Reasons Why. And the Moose from Zootopia. He was low-key the best character.
I'm gonna hit the pause button right there.
And I think that's it. There are a couple people who were maybe not. Obama, Justin Timberlake, India Ari, David Bowie. I always don't know how to say it. Is it Bowie? Anyway, Frank Ocean, Amy Winehouse, etc.
Yeah, those people could also
Bob Dylan.
Be, right. They can all be. I think that Frank Ocean's probably. I would actually probably add him on the list of the solid ones that we had recently mentioned. But yeah, the other ones are debatable. Obama, I don't understand why other people can't really see it. But I'm not huge on politics, so it's okay. Well, I just think that he is most likely ISFP, but we don't know that for sure. So those are some well-known ISFPs, and from looking at that list, from checking out those characters or celebrities, whatever, you can see the similarities between them, but you can also see the nuances because although people are of the same type, that does not mean that they're the same person. And instead, that just means that they're using 4 cognitive functions in different ways, but yet it's still the same cognitive function that they're using. And especially for the ISFP, their specific cognitive function of introverted feeling or authenticity is all about like being individualized, being who they are. So although a whole bunch of ISFPs, like all ISFPs use introverted feeling, most of them will use it in a different way. For those of you who don't know what cognitive functions are, hit that little I right there. Yeah, the information thing, like right up there. And it'll show 2 videos of both the perceiving functions and the judging functions. You guys can watch that after this video. And it'll explain like in depth like what all of the cognitive functions are. But essentially, there are 8 mental processes, and every type has 4 of them. They have a dominant one, which is the one that they're most comfortable in, and then they have an auxiliary one, which balances out their dominant one. Then they have a tertiary one, which is like kind of like weaker, but it's not like that weak. It still like plays a significant role. And then they have an inferior one, which is like basically operates as like a 3-year-old. That being said, we're gonna name off the ISFP's cognitive functions, which are
introverted feeling, extroverted sensing, introverted intuition, extroverted thinking.
wow.
In that order.
So now for those of you who don't know exactly what these mean, like I said, you can go check out more in-depth analysis on that in the cognitive function videos. But right now we're going to talk about how these specific functions play out in the ISFP, how these specific functions play out in the ISFP, and specifically in Jamila's life. So I guess now this is where we switch to interview format.
Well, first off, introverted feeling is basically being most... My stomach just growled. Being most in tune with your own emotions and your internal harmony, and basically just a really in-depth and like advanced self-awareness. And that comes with also being very morally grounded as well. A strong sense of right and wrong as it pertains to like morality and spirituality, whereas like FE, for example, they have a sense of right and wrong, but it's more of like for the greater good and like society.
FE is extroverted feeling, by the way.
Oh.
And just because you're an introvert does not mean, just because you're an extrovert does not mean that you have extroverted feeling. Just because you're an introvert does not mean that you have introverted feeling. Just a fun fact.
Yeah. So that's my definition.
So just to add on to that, introverted feeling is also nicknamed as authenticity by Personality Hacker, and I think that captures it very well. Like, introverted feeling, or FI, is really just all about being true to yourself, being in tune with your internal values, with your internal feelings. Like, they have an incredibly, the higher up introverted feeling is on your function stack, the stronger you are in tune with your own feelings, with your own values, with your own morality, with your own ethics, etc. Introverted feelers are constantly thinking about how things make them feel, how things actually like impact them personally as an individual, and just making them become like more individualized. Dominant introverted feelers are ISFP and INFP, and then auxiliary ones are ESFP and ENFP, and these are the 4 people that are just like really individualized and just all about like coming out in a way that's most authentic to who they are.
Because we are so much about authenticity and being ourselves and stuff like that, then we in our mind are more accepting of other people, because we value authenticity so much for ourselves that we also value it for other people. Not to get real deep into my life, but
This is the point of it. So.
Like my parents, for example, we kind of have an interesting relationship where they're both, if you know anything about MBTI, they're ESTJ and ENTJ. So they're very like headstrong and kind of like emotionless. And I'm like, nah. All the time, people, especially if they don't know me that well or know my parents that well, but even then, like people like to give advice. People always like, oh, like just talk to them about this, or you should really tell them that you feel this way or whatever. But it's weird because as an ISFP, as much as somebody, and not even just my parents, but anybody, as much as somebody would like bother me, I understand, especially knowing MBTI now, that I am accepting them for who they are. I don't want to tell them that I wish that they would do this or say this or whatever, because it's not coming from a genuine place. Like, not only why do I have to tell you, but also I don't want you to do something that you don't naturally feel inclined to do. I think that's a big part of authenticity, but it also kind of comes from my third function, which is introvert intuition, also known as perspectives, which we'll get into. ISFPs tend to be, ironically, seen as invisible. This guy that Denzel and I know one day basically told him like that I'm pretty and everything, and guys will love to hit at me and stuff, but people just don't notice like that I'm there. I remember one day in high school, it was like a field day or something, and I had like a Princess Diaries moment. If you guys remember when the girls sat on Mia, that basically happened to me in high school. I was leaning up against the fence and somebody leaned up against me. Like, I did not know them. They did not know that I was there. And it was like really awkward. I was like, thanks. I'm assuming that really just kind of has to do with like introverted feeling, because it's like we're so in our own inner world and not like at all like engaging with like the outside world, that people don't really like notice us, kind of, which has to also do with the whole like energy thing, about how we tend to have low energy. And so it's like a lot of times if we're not talking, our energy is so low that people don't even know that we're there.
I would say it's FI, SC, and NI, because FI keeps them in their FI and NI keep them in their internal world, and then SE isn't necessarily having to do with like engaging with people, just being in the moment. And so literally it's like a hippie type of.
But what does that have to, I didn't really say engaging with people, I said engaging with the outside world, but like what does that have to do with how people see us?
I would say because that's how people, since you're like just there, you're just blending in so well, like you're to yourself and you're just like in the moment, I guess, then you're kind of just like blending in, like you're literally just there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Personally speaking, I don't really prefer small talk, and I've gotten to the point where like 85 to 90% of the time, I don't really ask people how they're doing. It's funny because I think people notice it, like strangers, they notice it, and they're like caught off guard, because it's just like, what is it, a habitual thing, like, hey, how are you, good, how are you, good, okay. And so I think sometimes people like expect me to say it back to them, but the truth of the matter is, it's not that I don't care, but I don't care because you like don't care, because I bet you your mom just died last night, but if I ask you how you're doing, you're going to say you're doing great, so I'm not going to ask you. Yeah, so basically just stuff like that. I mean, sometimes I'll say it back, but usually if I say it back, then I'm thinking like there is a chance that this person might actually tell me how they're doing. It would be like a friend or something like that. Denzel doesn't like small talk either, but like he's better at it because he's outgoing and because he has extroverted feelings. So he understands people's emotions and how to like get certain responses out of them, everything like that. But I'm not really that good at that, and I don't really try because, I mean, me personally, just because of the way I am, I kind of view that as fake. If I were to do it, if I don't think it's fake for him to do it, but it's kind of like fake for me to do it because
Yeah, FE users, so like ENFJs and INFJs would be a lot better with small talk, even though they wouldn't prefer it, just because they know that their FE lets them know, like, hey, this is what's appropriate for society and all of that. But FI users don't really care majority of the time. Just like you said, you don't really care about how the person's like feel or like making them feel that way, as opposed to like an FE user, they'll ask, oh, how are you doing, whatever like that is, just because they are willing to, I hate small talk, but I know that in doing this, this will somehow like establish some sort of like social norm, or it's a nicety. And FI users are not as in tune with like niceties, because FI is not all is like FI and TE, those two like polarities, they don't really care about what the world or what social society has established, as opposed to FE and TI would.
so pretty much an introvert who also has introverted feeling probably isn't with the whole like small talk thing and stuff like that. I mean, there's some who, like are for the occasion. Like if I have to, like let's say I go to a banquet or something, or like I go somewhere, or I'm in for some reason like really high spirits or something, but not really. I went to visit Denzel's family over like Christmas break, and he was telling me how he for a while had been trying to figure out what his uncle's type was, and I walk in the house and I knew right away what it was because I walk in, mind you, they've never met me before. I don't even think we ever spoke on the phone, but they knew I was coming. I was like spending the night at their house or whatever. And I walk in and I'm like, hi. And they're literally in another room and they're just like, okay, well, clearly this person has introverted feeling. They feel no obligation to be like, oh, how are you? Would you like a glass of water? Or something like that.
It's not that they didn't care, it just didn't really concern them as much.
Yeah, neither of them.
Yeah, so they didn't care enough for it to be a concern to them, or they didn't see like a point. It's like, why do I have to do this? So FI, authenticity, like, what society, like, what this is what society says, but why do we have to go like with the forms of society? Like, I sound like my friend Kendall. He's ENFP. Our friend Kendall. He's an ENFP. It's like, yeah, no, let's go against society. Like, so that's what I mean by like they don't really like care, as opposed to like ENFJs, INFJs, anybody who uses FE. They're like, well, no, I understand that society, like these social norms and all of that, is necessary for blah 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 blah. And FI has its time, and FE has its time, and so it's not necessarily that FI is bad and rule breaking or whatever, and it's not necessarily that FE is like perfect or whatever and mindless and fake. It's just two different functions.
Yeah, his uncle is INTJ and his aunt is ISTJ, and since they're thinkers, TJs, and they're introverts, and because they're TJs, they have introverted feeling. They're just like quadruply like not for the BS. Cause if it were me, like if somebody were to come in my house, like and they're staying, it's like, my son's girlfriend or whatever, I would be like that because I know that that's like appropriate and that's showing that I'm nice. But that's because I'm a feeler. So even though I'm an introverted feeler and I'm an introvert, I'm still a feeler. So like I evaluate what's valuable, and it's like, oh, I want to make sure like my son's girlfriend is taken care of. I'm gonna ask her like if she needs anything, and this isn't to bash them because I mean they were nice. Like, it's not like they did anything to me. It was just different. I read this a while ago, like when I first really started getting into MBTI, but like every type, I feel like a bird just died. Kind of is drawn to certain types of music, or is drawn to music for certain reasons. And introverted feelers, like dumb introverted feelers, are drawn to music that has a message or a meaning behind it. Denzel, I remember before we you know, really learned about this or whatever, he used to always tell me like, wow, like I understand why you're such a great person is because of the music that you listen to. Like the music that I listen to is like inspirational, uplifting, like, you know, be who you are and don't let anybody get you down and be your authentic self and, you know, love everybody and spread peace and joy around and stuff like that. And so he's like, wow, that's, you know, why you are the way you are. But it's kind of like, what do you call it? A cycle where it's like, yeah, I'm this way because of the music I listen to, possibly, but I listen to the music that I listen to because of the way I am as well. And I've always been like this ever since I was a kid. I can't listen to music if I don't know what it's talking about. Like, I don't understand how people are like, oh, I like the beat. I just don't get that. That just doesn't make sense to me. I just can't be like, listen to music and be completely mindless. I don't know if y'all know who India Ari is, but I listened to her a lot when I was younger. And I remember going to school and if people asked me like, oh, who's your favorite singer? I would tell them and they'd be like, oh, my mom listens to her. Like nobody my age was like listening to her. It was like thanks. Like Tay, for example, he doesn't listen to anything. And by anything I mean he listens to things but they don't have anything to say. But that's just him. Usually it has to be like a combination of like good musicianship, good vocalist, and like a good message behind the music. But you know, not in that order. Really in the backwards order. But yeah.
I think that was actually a very great explanation of how introverted feeling relates to Jamila. I wrote down a few things, you know, as her boyfriend, somebody who's like known her for what, we're going on like 4 years now, as friends. Gosh. One of the things I wrote down was just simply how long it took for us to get together. For those of you who don't know, famous story, Jamila originally told me that I was 40% of the man that she would like to spend the rest of her life with in the most calm, gentle, kind way possible. Why your thing higher than mine?
I don't know. I didn't touch it. You're the one. I won't go.
All right.
I just want to say, I was bent on it not happening because guys, most people, if I'm like, hey, I'm not interested in you, then they're like, okay, well, it was nice knowing you. So I wasn't expecting Denzel to like try to become a better person and like change for me and all that type of stuff. I was just expecting him to be like, oh dang, all right, on to the next. Because that's what everybody does. That's why I was so bent on it not happy because I can never see him being somebody that I want to be with. But slowly and surely.
So we're both Christians, and Jamila originally said the 40% statement because even though I was a Christian at that time, I was still like, I guess, figuring out my doctrine and like theology and everything. And she knew her stuff extremely well. Jamila just said that I can't see you leading me in a spiritual relationship or whatever. I'm like, oh, dang, you know? I did not want any other woman to tell me that. So I improved myself, and I guess I kind of used her as like a measuring stick. Like, okay, well, I'm going to make sure that even if me and Jamila don't ever get together, which I honestly believe that we wouldn't, like, we weren't going to get together, because who reaches, I wasn't even at 60%. But I was just like, I'm gonna work on myself so that even if me and her never get together, then somebody else will not be able to tell me those same things. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because she stuck so strongly to her morals. There was points where she would be texting me. She's like, Denzel, you're such a great person, like, you really are, but I just can't like get past what I feel. And I was just like, wow, like, it was very interesting to me, because I feel like I had never met somebody like that who was just so strong on their values. Like, yes, you are a great person, yes, you're kind, blah blah blah, but I'm not going to go against my value that I need to be with somebody who is capable of leading me spiritually in this sense, and blah blah blah, and this is what I want. And she stuck to it. She really stuck to it. This went with boundaries. This went with everything. Like, FI is really just all about being extremely in touch with your own conscience.
Okay, this should be like we should take a break because I'm hungry. My second cognitive function is SE.
Also known as extroverted sensing.
Yes. Also nicknamed Sensation.
By Personality Hacker.
By Personality
Shout
Hacker.
out to Antonia Dodge and Joe Marquette.
Yes. It's all about being aesthetically driven and kinesthetically driven and living in the moment. The people that we named, you'll notice that, like, pretty much all of them are singers and dancers. We named Mulan. If you remember in the movie, she was like, she picked up things really quickly. This is just speculation. Possibly, if she was like an ESTP or ESFP, it would have been even quicker. First of all, I'm like thinking out loud now, but she really got the best results when she was by herself. When she like climbed that tall thing,
that's a good observation.
She was by herself, like, I'm gonna do this, whatever. Whereas a person who has SE as their first function, they're kind of known generally for being cocky and like show offy.
Look at Bruno Mars.
Yeah.
24 Karat Magic video. Check it out.
And so,
maybe not.
Yeah. So, like, we have that capability of being like good writers and good dancers and like good cooks or chefs. Anyway, and like, I don't know, workout people like Mulan. But I feel like, I'm just speaking like personally, probably the reason why an SE Dom probably would have picked up the thing better, like if Mulan was ESFP or ESTP, is because they also have a higher extroverted thinking function to really like drive them to get it done. As ISFP, even though we have all those capabilities, number one, we're introverts, so you won't really see it unless we decide to show you, which is rare. Number two, we don't have as much of a drive as ESFPs and ESTPs do. So like, unless we really, really care about something, we're not gonna like do it. We have to like really care, and then we'll put our heart into it, and then you'll see the fruits of that labor. You won't, most of the time, you won't really see the process. We're not just gonna show you, oh, here's this thing that I've been working on for the past 5 minutes. It's like, no, we want to be in like our introverted state, processing things and analyzing everything first, and then like present that to everybody else.
Yeah, I would say that my definition of SE is basically like being completely in the moment, completely in tune with your body, taking advantage of the moment at hand, especially like ESFPs and ESTPs. They just know where like the basketball is gonna end up, or where the football is gonna land, or how to throw it. Like, they just pick up on stuff like that, like, really easily. In the perceiving function video, I said they have an intuition, except for like the outside world. I know this guy named Jalen. He's ISTP, and he just knows exactly how to like hit the pool ball or whatever in certain ways to know how to get certain things in there, and it's just intuitive to him. And I mean, it makes sense as well because SE always comes with NI, which we're going to talk about. And those are two, like anybody who has SE in their function stack has NI there, and those two really work hand in hand. And the closer they are together, then the quicker certain things will just come. Like according to what it is. Essentially, SE is just about being in the moment, being in tune with your body, being incredibly in tune with your senses, and just everything sensation. Everything sensation. I've heard a story of a guy who was riding his bike, it like flipped over, and as soon as like he without skipping a beat, then he just like flipped right back up on his feet as if like nothing happened. Like it was just that quick and that spontaneous. This comes in very handy like with sports and everything because SE takes things at face value. It doesn't like it just acts. It does not take time like think about it, think too deep into it. It just acts and it usually knows what to do. Like, oh, ball's coming, catch it. Like reflexes, stuff like that. And so stuff like that like just sort of like happens or to be some of the SE talents. And
this isn't to say that I'm good at sports or that I enjoy physical activity necessarily.
True.
It's just if I desired it to really pick it up, I could pick it up quickly, like Mulan. I'm not gonna join the army like Mulan did, but if I did, I'd probably be like her.
Yeah.
Just like Mulan, she wasn't like singing and dancing and popping and locking and dropping.
Yeah,
like
because as the ISFP, as an ISFP, their auxiliary function is SE, and so that's something they more of like have to tap into, and that's what Mulan did. She had to tap into her SE function
because she valued what she valued, which has to do with FI, introverted feeling.
Boom. It's kind of hard not to talk about these things together because that's what makes it as a type. Like, it's hard not to talk about SE without NI. It's hard not to talk about TE without FI, stuff like that. And for the ISFP, it's hard not to talk about FI without SE. And that's usually why they're called the artists, because they mix the things that they really care about, like their own internal things. Well, we probably should talk about that like when we get to NI. But they mix FI and NI, their internal world, the stuff they're all like thinking about and everything, and then they take it out through their SE. So through their painting, through their singing, through all of that, like everything they've had in their inside of them, they just emit it through their SE, and they take things in through their SE as well. They like just really perceive the world in that fashion. SE is all about taking captive of the moment, and one of the things that I wrote down for Jamila is that she's goofy, as in like always dancing and having a good time by herself. And if you look at our anniversary video, I was like, I mean, I'm the extroverted person, but I was kind of like just chill because I honestly didn't know what to do. But then as soon as it was like her turn to like record, or as soon as it was my turn to record it, then she just started dancing. Like she can just have a good time. Like,
somebody
by
came
herself.
up to me yesterday. I was so lost. They were like, "Yo, I didn't know you could dance." I was like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "That video that Denzel put up." And I'm like, "The Denzel video." I was like, "I'm sorry, I still don't know what you're talking about." She's like, I think it was for your anniversary. I was like, "Oh, our anniversary." I don't know. I didn't even really think that I was dancing that well. And she's African, so she knows what good dancing is.
Like, I only dance well like when everybody else is like actually dancing, but if I'm just like the only one like on camera, basically. But she was perfectly just dancing in front of the camera like by herself, and I thought that was like very interesting. You know, SE does not like need like other people using her SE right now.
Yeah, I just really love food. And I know a lot of people say that, but
SE also has to do a lot with performing, and Jamila is an incredible performer. So is Tay. He leads with SE, and when you mix that SE with that FI, then for the ISFP in particular, and the ESFP can do this too if they develop their FI well enough, but it's kind of like backwards. So like for the ISFP, they feel everything. Like they're so incredibly in tune with their emotions. Now it's just how do I get it out there? And then the ESFP is more of like, okay, I know how to perform, I know how to do all of this, but I don't understand, I'm not that in tune with my emotions yet. I have to like get in tune with who I am and all of that so that I actually have substance in whatever I'm putting out there. All y'all ISFPs out there, try and get yourself an ESFP friend that you can like learn to teach you to express yourself in the ways that they do, like whether it's through, it's not even just like performance, but like through painting or through, like whatever type of like sensual thing that there is.
Sensational?
Sensational thing that there is. You want to get in the camera? Another thing that I wrote down for Jamila's SE is that they also tend to be very, very, very aesthetically driven and like very good with like style. Jamila one day came into my room and like this is like a couple years ago, but this is back like when I didn't really care much for style, and she literally
he cared about it. He just didn't know what it was.
That's not true. I didn't care as much. I spent too much money on gadgets. So, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Y'all can tell she's a perceiver, right? No class. She took up all of my clothes, basically, and she put a pile of clothes that I could keep and an even bigger pile of clothes that I should basically give away to Goodwill. Like, you're not wearing this. You're not wearing that. You're not wearing this. And she just has a very good, keen sense of style.
And I'm a good friend.
Yeah.
Because there are people who know he looked a hot mess, but they're like, that's just his individual style. It's not going to be his individual style no more.
Tay's also very aesthetically driven. He's not the most clean person, but when it comes to aesthetics, as in like, looking pretty boyish, knowing what colors go with what colors or whatever, like Tay is definitely like good with that.
So, I'm like going through a lot of things right now, like in life. And so, if I like think too much, I could just burst into tears. And that is really inconvenient. ISFPs and INFPs, we just feel really, 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 really deeply. And we feel ourselves really, it's ourselves that we feel deeply. Whereas like people like Denzel, he feels based on how everybody else feels. So Denzel, he don't really know if he's sad. And if he knows that he's sad, he doesn't really know why. But like me, for example, I go in my mind and in my heart, and it's not intentional, it's just the way God made me, but I just think, why am I sad right now? Or what is going on in my life? How does that make me feel? And then one thing leads to another, and I'll probably start crying. ISFPs and INFPs tend to take things really personally because we just see it as like an attack. If somebody like criticizes us or something.
SE is also very, very, very observant, so they like catch like everything that's going on. So at the beginning, I kind of said something about the ISFP being the type that sees much, says little. The ESFP could possibly be known as the type that sees much, says everything. SE is all about being in the moment, and they catch everything because they're like usually like just like aware. And this is stronger for the ESFP, but to the ISFP, it's also like to an extent like as their auxiliary function. Like once they are actually like dwelling in there, then they're like just very observant. They're watching like whatever is going on, and that also like plays into just a lot of the things that they perceive with their FI and their NI, which now we're finally about to get into. The last thing that I wanted to say about SE was it's very interesting. Jamila responds either in song or in memes. As in like, and I wrote down responds either in song or meme, artistic but not verbal. If I say something to her, like, oh, like, I got this opportunity, whatever like that, like because she leads with FI, and maybe not every FI's user is like this, but I see it's very strongly with a lot of the FI users that I know, dominant FI users that I know. They just, their energy level just like, that's how it seems, unless if it comes to food.
I had to do a presentation in class, and I basically did everything perfectly. The only thing that my teacher commented on was that maybe next time you should just have a little bit more energy.
There you go. I'll like say things like, oh, I just got this opportunity, whatever, and she'll be like, oh, that's nice, like in person, whatever, like, okay, that's cool. But then if I like text it to her or something, then you know how like iMessage, you can not only like just send memes and stuff, but you can like send like the slam emoji or the loud emoji and stuff like that, and that's her way of like showing excitement. I'd be like, good morning, like with, you know, like emojis or whatever like that, and she used to literally just text back morning.
Because if I wake up,
everybody knows that rule.
If I wake up, that's how I feel.
Well, it's not appropriate. You can't just start off the day by
yeah, you can.
morning. That's not how you respond to somebody's good morning.
Yeah, because it's like if I'm asleep and you're like, good morning, I'm not gonna be like, good morning. I'm gonna be like, 5 more minutes. That's realistic.
But it's not appropriate. Isn't this an interesting video, y'all?
I don't feel happy when I wake up. I feel like I still got crust in my eyes and everything, and I haven't even stretched my back or cracked my toes. I'm just like, so.
She's been doing better, though.
Yeah, because this was like, hey, you suck as a person. And so I decided, well, let me just say good morning with 5 emojis.
Give it up for the ENFJs. The next cognitive function that we're going to be talking about is introverted intuition in the ISFP. This is their tertiary function, and it's all about basically future pacing and, you know, just getting into the other person's mind. I have it as an auxiliary function. INFJs and INTJs have it as a dominant function. But in the tertiary function, it operates as like a 10-year-old. So it's not as sophisticated, even though 10-year-olds are still pretty smart. They're just not adults. And so the way that I would say ISFPs usually use it is by just only keeping track of like how their own mental pattern works. This becomes like very, very extravagant, like when it comes down to FI and NI, because that means that ISFPs are completely aware of their subconscious. They're like just about completely aware of their subconscious, because they're not only checking in with how they feel about just about everything, but they're also checking in with how they think about everything. Why did I think this? FI is about like retracing your feeling thought process per se, I guess, or like just building that up. But then NI, like if you watch my video on metacognition, is all about like retracing your thought process. Okay, thinking about A and then thinking about why you're thinking about A. NI is actually the hardest cognitive function to explain. But if you watch my video that I keep on pointing out, you can definitely like understand that in the metacognition one.
Like ISFPs are generally known to be like basically maybe next to like the ISTP, the most relaxed and chill type, which ironically we both have SC and NI right there, so that's pretty much why, because we take things as they are, you know, SE, just living in the moment, whatever, but right under that, I thought I was about to burp, and right under that, we're able to get into other people's perspective. It's not good, okay. The only difference is that ISTPs are obviously thinkers, so they're more of like no bullcrap type of mentality, whereas we're feelers. So, I see my friend ISTP right there. Anyway, but we're more like feelers, so we can like empathize with people more on like an emotional level, whereas, you know, ISTPs, they more of empathize kind of like in a logical level, like, okay, if like understanding like your logic behind this, where I'm more of like understanding why you feel the way you feel. That makes sense. Like I said, we're like known as the laid back types because we could just always put ourselves in other people's position, understanding why they do the things they do and like stuff like that. And a lot of people, like, I've heard this my entire life. They just look at me as, oh, Jamila, she doesn't care about anything. Which, I mean, to a certain degree, it might be true. Okay, INFPs, for example, they don't have introverted intuition. They have extroverted intuition. And so they don't really get into other people's perspectives.
They look at things from all angles, but it's not from a way where it's like, this is how the other person feels, per se.
Yeah. And so
Or thinks, not feels, but thinks. Because NI is about thinking,
right.
Thought process.
But INFPs, they're more susceptible to be like offended and take things more personally than ISFPs because, like I said, they don't have that perspectives process. Like I was saying, so people always, all my life, the people are like, oh, you don't care about anything. I mean, okay, so like I'm not really that good at school. That's also a fun fact about ISFPs that I've read recently, that we're basically the worst at school, which I pretty much agree with. It's really interesting that we're like probably the rest of school because we don't have any friends. So it's not like we out partying and drinking. Well, I mean, I'm a Christian, but anything like it's not like we're like sucked into like the social life, whatever. It's just that we are just about being ourselves and being free and not being restricted by societal norms and stuff like that. I think that was just a fun fact. That don't have anything to do with introverted intuition. What was I saying before that? Oh yeah, get it.
Like Kalisa. I wrote down able to keep up with abstract concepts and depth to a long extent. So one thing that I find interesting about the ISFP is that they're known as the most intuitive of the sensors, and I've seen this pretty clearly with Jamila because whenever I engage in intuitive conversation with like other intuitives and stuff, even if Jamila doesn't really have like things to like input, she is always able to like keep up, or at least for the most part, I would say like 90% of the time be able to like keep up before she just like ends up like losing interest or like, you know, stuff like that. And this is also because FI and NI are like so abstract and like, you know, just abstract that like the ISFPs like gotten good at like lying at their subconscious level, so that almost makes them so like individualized, so abstract in their thinking, so like set apart, that it makes them seem intuitive. But that SE function, them like just taking things at face value, being able to be in the moment, being so in tune with their body and all of that, makes them dominantly a sensor. Another thing that I've noticed is that when NI is in the position of a dominant or auxiliary function, then I've noticed that as a dominant function, so for INTJs and INFJs, they have a strong sense of what the future is going to look like how the future is going to, like what's the outcome of the future. And then for ENFJs and ENTJs, who have it as an auxiliary function, they have a very strong sense of what the future is going to look like, mainly because they like sort of create their future. They're like, okay, I know that if I hit the buttons of life in this certain order, if I do this, if I do that, this is what's going to happen. And so they have like a sure like confidence of the future.
Y'all, we have been having a time. We had to stop this video like 3 times, and now we're in a whole nother building.
I'm very sorry for the disorganization. It's finals week. Everybody's trying to get a room, whatever it is. But nonetheless, we're going to continue. Hopefully, you can just keep up with the information. So, the last thing I was saying was tertiary NI in ISFP's position. That actually comes as paranoia for the ISFP. And it's funny how this comes out, like, especially for Jamila. Like, I kid you not, she is always paranoid about something in the future. NI is good with, like, you know, like future pacing and getting into other people's mind and setting your own mind. And Jamila is good to an extent on, like, predicting other people's, like, motives and, you know, stuff like that. But it's just one of those things that it's clear that it's not her strong suit. Just like SE is not my strong suit as a tertiary function. She gets paranoid about things such as, like not necessarily like being pessimistic, but like more of like, oh, what if this doesn't happen this way? Or like, just expecting the worst to happen in some sort of way. Sometimes she even gets paranoid with like me dying, like out of nowhere. And so I just thought that was like pretty interesting when I started to learn about NI and how it plays out in the ISFP.
Like, not to brag on myself, but I feel like I'm very healthy and very developed.
I agree.
And so, a benefit of that for the ISFP is that because of our FI and our NI, well, really all three. So the FI, that helps me really get in tune with like my emotions and understanding why I feel the way I feel. And then a healthy ISFP will also be really developed in their extroverted sensing to like check in with the real world and see how things are like playing out, and how ultimately that can inspire us in some type of like artistic way. Even if you're like a nurse or something, but like you do painting at nightclubs on the weekend, something to just keep like your juices flowing, so that way you don't have to rely on your 10-year-old introverted intuition, understanding motives behind why I do what I do helps me to understand other people as well. And that's why I would say ISFPs are one of the best types in giving advice, because if, like I said, if you're healthy, you really understand as a person, like personally, why you do the things you do, and you see how realistic it is or is not in the outside world. And then you have a good hold on your introvert intuition to put yourself in the other person's shoes, but also be like, in your own mind, okay, like, when this happened, this led me here, and when it happened to my friend, this led her here, and this person is kind of like my friend, so this is probably how this is going to play out. And another thing about ISFPs is, like how Dezo was saying, that we're the most intuitive of the sensors. I know for me personally, and Tony and Josh talked about this, and it just really hurts my heart, because all my life I just feel so misunderstood, and not because I'm misunderstood because I'm special, but I'm misunderstood because I'm special. I know for me personally, I don't, like I've already said before, I really don't have any friends. Denzel is my closest friend, and ironically, he basically has the same struggle, because he's the most sensing of the intuitives. And so it's like he doesn't really fit in with the sensors, because he's not a sensor. Like, it comes out as a 10-year-old, so it doesn't really look that good on him. But he doesn't really fit in with the intuitives because he doesn't stay in his head all day. Like, he has to go out and like affect the world and everything. And with me, it's like I'm very able to like do whatever with my body, relate to the outside world and stuff like that. But honestly, it really gets draining for me. But because I'm an introvert, I don't really know how to just walk up to somebody and have an intuitive conversation. I mean, kind of I do, but I have to be like in the mood too, like I said, because I'm an introvert. But like if somebody were to come up to me, I'm like, oh, okay, like we can have a conversation. But I'm not really like that. And yeah, because everybody else in the world is like, never mind, I don't feel like talking anymore.
Then the last thing that I have for NI is for the ISFPs, they're able to sometimes accurately predict motives and intentions, as I said before, but fails at predicting the future majority of the time. Because we both share SE and NI. Like, my NI is here and my SE is here, and then for her it's like that. And so she's better at just looking at what's here right now and then getting a sense of what's going on, like right now, whatever in that case. And I'm better at looking at what's here right now and then what's going to happen in the future or whatever. But I guess sometimes, like, Jamila likes to play with me and predict things, and I'm not going to say that she's never right. I'm not going to say that, because she is right a lot of the time, actually. But majority of the time, when I predict that something's going to happen, well, she usually is the one to predict it out loud first. And then I disagree with her, and then I'm like, I think this is going to happen, and then she's like, okay, well, we'll see about it. And I end up being right. And I'm not the type of person to say "I told you so." I just have like a smug look sometimes. In the same way where I try to like get in my SE a lot, and, be like, and it just doesn't like work as well. It's just not as funny as like when somebody like Tay and Jamila does it. Then your tertiary function, like your 10-year-old, although it's like good, it's not something that you should like always run to. Like you're always best your dominant and your auxiliary function.
Yeah,
So that's the
because
last
if
thing
you're
I'll
not
say.
a healthy ISFP and you're just like, if you find yourself really just always being paranoid and whatever, like in your head and stuff like that, then most likely you're depressed because I know for me, kind of like what I said, like if I start to think too much about my life and my future, then I just get really depressed. So
Shit, she's marrying me apparently. So.
it's really important to like check in with the external world so that way you have that balance because unfortunately you're not as good as like predicting the future as you think, and it only not only but if you do it too much it comes out as like not comes out but you resonated with it in a more pessimistic type of way where it's supposed to be used, obviously everything is supposed to be used for good and not for evil. Yeah. Even if it's in terms of yourself.
And the final function for the ISFP is TE, also known as extroverted thinking. And the three things that I actually put down for Jamila is, one, she seems to only use it on me.
Extroverted thinking has been nicknamed by Personality Hacker as effectiveness. That is getting...
She's talking all gently now. I noticed that.
It's about getting things done in an effective manner and yeah.
DE effectiveness is all about like getting things done in the external world and like organizing, telling people what to do. Like, okay, I'm gonna need you to do this. I'm gonna need you to do that. I'm gonna need you to do that, and just being like very like, oh, got to consider your feelings, but it got the job done. So it's kind of like a tunnel vision type of mindset, like bulldozer. Jamila has it as her last function, so it's her 3-year-old. It's not nearly as strong as an ENTJs or ESTJs or ISTJs or INTJs.
It looks like my hair disappears, but where'd it go? It's like I'm holding an invisible string.
I have a comment to make about Jamila's SE.
Oh wait, I was talking.
Okay.
You're not supposed to like intentionally try to develop your last function because that's not healthy. But it still needs to be like, it affects everything else. So if that's good, then everything else is good. And saying this, TE helps with basically like, since it can't really help other people that much because it's just a 3-year-old, it helps me, like, personally. But the thing is that it's probably not that good because I haven't really been motivated lately. But hypothetically, it would inspire me to, like, write more, be more proactive in my schoolwork, speak up when I see injustices or things that are unfair. But I just sit and watch and wait till graduation.
So the comment that I was going to make about Jamila's SE is that these are now just like fun facts or things I've noticed about Jamila as an ISFP. This has happened, no exaggeration, probably over 50 times that I can recall. I'll be in mid-conversation with Jamila, and she will like notice something like a butterfly or something, or somebody with makeup, or like whatever. Like yesterday I actually wrote this example down. Yesterday I was talking about something, and as I was talking to her, I know that she was paying attention, but she happened to notice a sign on the table, and it said like $2.99 for for 2 churros or something like that. And right in the middle of what I was saying, then she just like cut me off, and she was like, "That doesn't even make sense." I'm like, "What?" And then she's like, two for $3." like, what? And I look back and I'm like, oh yeah, that doesn't make sense. And then I was like, what was I saying again? In between us making this video when she went to go get food and stuff, I was saying something to her, and then some guy walked past, and this one I understand, like, because then I wouldn't have seen him. I actually didn't see him still, but, whatever. He walked past, and then in mid-conversation, then Jamila's like, that guy's wearing makeup, and I'm like, yeah. And so I just think I find it funny, like her being ISFP, she catches like everything in the moment. Like she's completely aware of what's going on, and she just like it just like yanks her attention away. And
Yeah, I
then
have a
me
short
having
attention
like an I above my SE, I focus very intently on whatever I'm saying, but then since SE is right beneath my NI, then if I get yanked out of my if I get yanked out of my NI into my SE, then I forget everything that I was just saying, and it takes me a while to like sniff out that trail again.
I kind of have a short attention span, which is probably also why I don't like school. I keep saying like bad things about school. Education is great. It's just like they didn't design, and ISFP did not design the education system. I'll just tell you that.
Yeah,
And
it was
also,
definitely a TE Dom. It had to have been like an ESTJ or an ISTJ.
Yeah, and it wasn't created for ISFPs, because if it was created for ISFPs, then there would be more creativity. But anyway, what was else I was going to say? I said school. Oh yeah, I have a short attention span. I doodle a lot. And the crazy thing is I'm not a good drawer. But
her art comes through her music and all of that, her performances, poetry, etc. So just as y'all should know, art comes in very different forms and everything.
Right. Like I'm pretty sure if I tried, I can end up being a really good drawer or whatever. I just don't have the patience, but I was really good in high school. I think I was one of my teacher's favorites, stuff like that. But see, I can't really draw. I cannot really draw. So I just end up doing this for class periods and stuff.
And that's her way of paying attention.
Yeah. A lot of times that's my way of paying attention.
She has to give her SE something to do in order to
Yeah. Stuff like this.
Coloring in random stuff.
Oh yeah.
There you go. Yeah, I never do stuff like that.
It's weird because a lot of times I can say, oh, it helps me pay attention, but then a lot of time I get distracted, dang, that line is crooked, and then I think about how the line is crooked for 30 minutes. I drew a bunny in one of my classes the other day. I actually think it went pretty well, but I just had to concentrate, what does a bunny look like? I was actually talking to my ESFP friend about this, and he was saying, he has to do that. He has to draw, or I lied to you now. We had a class together. Every single class, he would literally have his laptop. And I mean, a lot of people do this, but every single class, he was either looking at food videos or he was shopping, not exaggerating whatsoever.
We're going to make a video with him too. You guys will see. It's not Tay. This one's a interesting ESFP.
Yeah. I realized that I do this recently. I kind of had an epiphany where a lot of times if I'm bored, I'm either going to tap into, in class especially, I'm either going to tap into my SE or my NI. And if I'm I really can't draw, then subconsciously I kind of go to my NI and I start thinking about all the things that I want to do in life, aka daydreaming. So I'm I want to do this, and I want to start this, and da-da-da-da, and hopefully I win a Grammy one day. And I asked Denzel, later that day or something, if he does that, and then he's like, oh yeah, I do, but I just think about, I gotta make this YouTube video today. So because he just knows that he doesn't really, it's he thinks into the future, but like he was saying earlier, he makes the future happen. But I don't really make the future happen because my extrovert judging function is last. So I just, that'd be nice. I hope I do that one day. But he's like, okay, are you ready to make the YouTube video?
It's funny that Jamila will point out things right in her immediate, because then when it's the other way around and she's speaking to me, yesterday, when I'm walking around campus with Jamila and she's talking to me, I sometimes feel bad because I feel I have to have my head down or something, because if somebody sees me and they say hi to me and I say hi back, or if I wave at somebody or whatever, even if it's subtle. Yesterday, we were walking past someone and I just tapped, as Jamila was talking, I just tapped on her, like said what's up, whatever, and it was very brief. I was still listening to Jamila. She was, do you know how distracting that is?
Okay.
And so I just
Okay.
thought that was funny.
Okay, but see, here's the thing. It's different because
It's always different, guys. It's always different. We're gonna make an ENFJ and ISFP relationship because for those of you who may not know, ENFJ and ISFP, according to theory, are the ideal partners for each other. And so, yeah, we're gonna talk about some of the like struggles and the compliments that we have and everything, being an ENFJ and ISFP, male, female, and but this wasn't supposed to be that type of video. I guess some things are sort of like inevitable, being in a relationship and all of that.
I am a dominant introverted feeler. Denzel is a dominant extroverted feeler. So it's like first of all, it was up to one person. It was 3 people. He said I had to in a span of like 5 seconds. Okay, when I'm talking to him. Second
Two
of
of
all,
them are at the same table.
Okay.
I literally just went like this.
no,
Like,
but
"Hey, what's
then
up,
but then
Denzel?"
you tapped the person too. So that was the second.
And then I went like that, and everything was silent. That's all I'm gonna say.
No, it wasn't No, it wasn't silent because I wouldn't have got annoyed if it was silent. And second of all, Denzel, as much as I don't know why he convinces himself that he's always listening, but then he'll be like confused when he gets back into the conversation a lot of the time. So it's no he's out. Oh, I'm listening. No, I need your undivided attention. Also, lastly, like I was saying, I'm a dominant introverted feeler. Denzel's a dominant extroverted feeler. So when not only is my extrovert system higher, but if I, notice something, I point it out. It's just that observation. But Denzel, he notices people, not things. So because he's more like about other people than he's about himself, then he's actually completely engaged, even if it's just a brief thing. Whereas me, if I notice it's like, oh, that person wear makeup, you was like, oh, hey, what's up?
I don't do that. Literally, it's so subtle. I just go
No,
like, what's up?
It's not.
Hey, speaking of TE, Dwight, bring your face up in here. Oh, that hurts. Yeah, you got. This is the ESFP we were talking about earlier. Scrolling on his phone. We'll be talking about that in our interview, so be up for that. And this is the ENTJ that we were talking about. Dom TE. He doesn't really care about people's feelings. I'm just kidding. Sort of.
Praise God.
But anyway, well, I guess you guys can help us wrap it up. Thanks for listening, watching this video. Sorry for all of the transitions, the movements, Jamila eating in front of y'all, all of that. But hope that y'all enjoyed it and it was informative. Be looking forward to this video, ESFP one, and maybe if he hops in on it, we can do the ENTJ one as well. He'll pray about it.
He don't pray.
Done.